It was the beginning of autumn when I assumed the role of Fosca's nursemaid. She would spend her days in bed, seeing no one but myself, her cousin, or the doctor. I would visit her each morning before my shift, and after dinner the Colonel permitted me to be alone with her in her room, where I sometimes stayed until midnight, playing chess or backgammon, reading her poetry as she nodded off to sleep. As the strain of her illness grew more severe, so the seizures returned with greater regularity. The poor wretch was frequently assailed by headaches that pushed her to the edge of madness. I had to restrain her from pulling her hair out or beating her head against walls. These tiring hysterics were inevitably followed by bouts of nausea. I would hold her hand and place a basin under her mouth as she vomited. So pathetic was her condition that the Colonel suspected no amorous impropriety on my part, didn't even suspect that others might suspect. He was just relieved to have some of the responsibility taken off his shoulders. In her lucid moments, I endeavoured to converse with Fosca in the same spirit of unflinching, absolute honesty as she. Ultimately, I found it rather liberating to throw every disingenuous social protocol to the wind and speak straight from the heart to another human being.
Ha! Check! And you might as well give up now. I will have you mated in 7 moves.
I don't think so.
Check! Admit defeat, Captain.
Never!
There! I have you. I win.
Not really. Take a moment, look closer. I'm not actually in check right now. You've just got me pinned down so I can't make a legal move on my next turn.
What? No, that's not right.
Yes, it is. See, if I move my king here, or here, your rook or your queen will take it. If I move this little man anywhere, it opens up my king to your bishop. I can't do anything.
But you're not in check now, so it's a draw.
Technically, yes.
Damn! Why didn't I see that?
Because you were overconfident, rushed into the endgame, didn't think things through. Which is so unlike you, I am really surprised.
Oh, very droll. Well played, though.
You know, it doesn't feel that way. That rule is one part of this game that never made any sense to me.
Stalemate counting as a draw, you mean?
Yes. In a real battle, reducing your opponent's army down to 2 and forcing them into a situation where they can't move without dying would definitely count as a victory. I mean, the rulebook might say otherwise, but I'd say you won this game.
Yes!
If only real battles could be like this. Both sides equally matched, adhering to the same code of conduct, played out on a totally flat terrain that offers no advantage to either side, with the heads of state and church present, risking their lives alongside common foot soldiers, everyone fighting through to the bitter end.
What is a real battle like, Giorgio?
Chaos. Pure and utter chaos. I believe that there was no underlying strategy to any of the skirmishes I fought in during the war. They had superior weaponry, but we had a stronger position and the numbers were on our side. So my battalion was ordered to just keep running in that general direction, shooting all in our way until the enemy was eventually overwhelmed. I just ran and ran in a state of panic, straining to see through the smoke, firing off shot after shot blindly, trying to cover as much ground as I could and not get killed. The fact that I'm still alive today, it couldn't have been more than 10% skill at arms. I'm sure it was mostly sheer dumb luck.
You don't feel like you were a hero then?
I once saved a man whose leg had been shot off, carried him back to camp before he could bleed to death. That's the only thing I ever did during the war that I think even remotely approaches heroism. But that was a spur-of-the-moment decision, and I didn't get a medal for it. No, I was decorated for running down an undermanned force who were stuck in a corner. And there were so many other battles that ended with our forces running away, I lost count. We never fought to the last man, death or glory and all that.
Would you have preferred that?
No, I'd probably be very much dead if that were the case. It's just that, in my youthful naivete, when I first enlisted, I suppose I expected something more ordered, more structured.
Still, aren't you proud of what we've achieved as a nation? Aren't you glad to be a part of that, even if only in a small way?
Not really, no. I mean, we would never have prevailed if it wasn't for the Prussian intervention. And it wasn't Italian valour that won Venetia. It was just handed back to us by the French because they realised it was utterly useless.
But you do feel a united Italy is a stronger Italy, don't you?
Yes, I am willing to concede that.
You've done good, truly. Because of the sacrifices made by men like yourself, our country can prosper in peace for the first time in 50 years. That is something you should be proud of.
Thank you, Fosca. It means a lot to me that you'd say that. Really, it does.
But
this peace makes me uneasy. Fighting is a much simpler thing than ruling. I wonder if this Italy of ours will stay united for long. If this government really has what it takes to hold the country together.
I have doubts about this government myself. But I hope and pray for your sake, and for my cousins, that this will be a lasting peace.
You pray, Fosca?
I doubt anyone hears. But it can be a peaceful, calming activity. To say the names of those I love, to wish them well, the act is comforting. And if there is even the slightest possibility that it contributes to the betterment of others, then surely it is a worthy pursuit.
You don't ever pray for yourself?
No. I'm afraid my illness has not brought me closer to God. Quite the opposite, in fact. I remember when I was 15, there was a closet at our home where I would go to hide. I pray alone in a loud voice without being heard.
What did you pray for?
To be delivered from my loneliness. Shortly thereafter, I met Ludovico, and you know how that went. I stopped asking God for favours after that. What about you, Giorgio? What do you believe in?
Fosca, have you heard it said that life is but a game and we are the playthings of the gods?
Yes, I have heard that.
Do you know who said it?
No, I don't.
Neither do I. But I've got to thinking that there must be something to that. It's the only way I can reconcile the existence of a god with what I've seen in the world. I remember my father. In times of drought, he would try to comfort us by saying this was God's way of testing our spirit. Then when it rained, or whenever any unexpected good fortune came his way, he would declare that it was a blessing and praise the Lord.
But you didn't believe that?
No. It made him feel better about his life, I suppose. I just found it pathetic. I still do. I think it was his deranged optimism about life that drove my mother to drink in the end. Hell, the farm wouldn't still be afloat if it weren't for the money I sent him.
I see. So if there's a God, he doesn't care, and we just have to muddle through and make do as best we can with whatever we've got. Luck management, eh? Backgammon?
Sure. Perhaps luck will be on my side and I'll win this time. I didn't win, by the way. Hardly ever did win with Fosca. Of the dozens upon dozens of games we played, I can count the number of victories I achieved on the fingers of one hand. Several times Fosca accused me of playing soft with her, because she was an invalid. But the truth is, she was simply the better player. It would not be hyperbole for me to say that I was often awestruck by the woman's capacity for advanced strategic thinking, given how the ravages of her illness had drained her of so much physical energy. Her intellect was something fierce, tenacious, indefatigable.
Come in, Giorgio. Set it down there. I'll be with you in a moment.
Good evening to you too, Fosca. Bravo, Signora. Though I can't say that your presence was greatly missed at dinner this evening. Major Blear expressed pleasure that you felt up to playing the piano again. The others send their best regards.
Good to know. What did you save for me?
Leathery slice of something resembling veal, potatoes, carrots, the usual Thursday fare.
Thank you. Well, at least the chef has remembered to season the meat so that it has some semblance of flavour.
Paprika, I believe. You are looking better, Fosca.
But my seizures come and go like the waves upon a beach. It's low tide at the moment, hopefully for another week or so yet.
Would you be up to going on an outing? The skies are still clear right now, but it won't be too long before winter sets in.
The doctor has suggested to me that I should make the most of this good weather while it lasts, but I'm wary of tempting my fate.
Well, we didn't go very far, just outside.
You still haven't seen the castle, have you?
No, I was waiting for a time when I could see it with you.
Really, Captain Farina?
Truly, and please don't call me Captain Farina whenever I say something dubious. I thought we'd moved past that.
Well, that's very sweet of you, Giorgio. What say we go there tomorrow?
So, the following day, late in the afternoon, we set out, Fosca, the doctor, and I. The doctor was thoughtful enough to bring a picnic rug and a basket full of bread, cheese, and dried fruit, so we would not have to rush back to the barracks. Though the weather was only moderately cool, Fosca walked with a thick blanket wrapped around her. Like the temple by the lake, this once mighty fortress had gone to seed. In places the brickwork was barely visible for all the moss and weeds. Yet, like the temple, there was something oddly beautiful about this dilapidated relic.
Oh, all that remains of our ancestors' golden dreams of empire, left to rot and waste away. So sad.
I doubt our ancestors' dreams seem quite so golden to all the kingdoms that they subjugated, Doctor. I think there's actually a certain poetic justice to this ruin. All these monuments they built to their own megalomania, thinking it would render them immortal. That such edifices should crumble to dust seems to me a just reward for such hubris.
It's a very cynical way of looking at things, Captain.
Yes, especially for a soldier.
I'm not being cynical, just realistic. Ultimately, our emperor's vision of the world at large wasn't much different to Bonaparte's tyranny.
I do find it ironic that Bonaparte's nephew has been so helpful in putting back together what his uncle tore asunder.
That is not ironic, Doctor. It is merely a peculiar turn of events that confounded expectations.
It isn't even that. On the contrary, I would argue it was quite bleedingly obvious that's what he was going to do, and that inherited guilt played no part at all in his decision. He saw the damage that 50 years of war had wrought on this land, and realised there was no profit to be had in an invasion, and after all that he had lost in his Mexican adventures, he probably saw little point in throwing good money after bad.
I'm sure that financial consideration played a part in his decisions, but it can't have all have been about money.
You keep telling yourself that if it makes you feel better. But ultimately, wars only ever boil down to two things: money and the consolidation of power.
Fine. You win, Captain. I've had enough of this gloomy discussion. I'm going to climb up to the battlement and enjoy the view of our town as the sun sets. Are you two coming with me?
Thank you, Doctor, but I don't think I feel up to making the ascent today. I'll stay here.
As will I.
All right, then. Don't you two lovebirds get up to any naughty business while I'm gone.
Oh, very funny. Fosca, are you all right?
Oh, yes, Giorgio. I just need to sit down for a while.
I'll unfold the rug. Here.
Thank you, Giorgio. You're very good to me, you know. Though I'm afraid in all this time we've spent together, you're starting to pick up some of my bad habits.
I'll stop talking about military matters if it upsets you.
No, I like to hear you talk. And I'd rather you told me what is really on your mind than waste my time with idle chatter. Though it does make me sad sometimes the way you speak about your past.
How so?
You seem to have accumulated so much bitterness and regret for somebody who has not yet turned 30.
Oh, really? You know, I could say the same thing about you.
Even if the doctor's best estimates are correct, I won't live to see 30. But you have time on your side, Giorgio. All the bad decisions you made as a youth do not have to define the man you are today. It's obvious that you are unhappy as a soldier. So why do you persist with this military madness?
Well, the ladies melt at the sight of a man in uniform, as you know.
I'm being serious.
Seriously then, I've got to make a living somehow. Haven't had much luck finding work elsewhere.
But you are so smart, so educated.
The only formal education I ever had was in a small village school in the middle of nowhere. Not very prestigious. And all the book learning in the world means nothing if you have no experience. The only thing I've done besides fighting is farming, and I wasn't exceptionally good at either of those things.
But there must be something you can do. Think!
I don't know. I suppose I have always been good with horses. Perhaps I could find work as a stable hand, at some noble's country estate, or at a racetrack.
Would you be happy doing this? Happier than you are now, at any rate?
Probably.
Then do it, Giorgio. Make something of your life. Don't just settle for mediocrity. Reach for your dreams.
Easy to say. And if these dreams are beyond my reach?
Then you've at least got to try. That goes for Clara too.
Clara? What about Clara?
This isn't just some summer fling for you, is it? You care about her deeply. She is all that you ever wanted in a mate. And the parting from her will break your heart. Am I right?
Yes, but I can't devote the rest of my life to her, Fosca.
Why not?
She has a husband and a son.
You could ask her to leave them.
When she agreed to this affair, it was under the condition that I would do no such thing. I promised that I would let her be the one who decides when it all ends.
I don't see the harm in asking. She might be persuaded to change her mind if you ask her very nicely. The worst that could happen is that she says no and leaves. But that's going to happen anyway, so what can you lose?
I would like for her to think of me as a man of honour. What's so funny?
Oh, you've already gone ahead and seduced a married woman. You don't think it's a bit late to be worrying about honour now?
There are ways of going about these things that are less ignoble than others. And let's just suppose that she said yes. Her name and reputation in polite society would be completely ruined. Her family would likely disown her as well. She might not see her son again, and her career prospects would be even more dubious than my own. It's out of the question.
If she loves you, then she might consider all of that an acceptable price to pay. Just to be with you, Giorgio.
She doesn't love me that much. I know it. Besides, you're hardly the most qualified person to be giving relationship advice.
You've got me there. Do what you think is right, then. Oh. Oh, I feel funny. Giorgio, I need to lie down.
Here, use my jacket for a pillow.
Oh, won't you be awfully cold?
I'll survive it. Take it.
Oh, thank you, my love. Why are the daisies and violets blooming again? They're the first flowers of spring, are they not?
The warm weather we've had the last week or so has tricked them. They imagine that April has returned already. Many flowers fall into the same era, the rose, lilac, elder. They often send forth their buds in the autumn.
I feel funny. It's coming. Oh, damn, coming. So good these few days. Last few my hand, beloved hand.
Oh, it's all right. I'm holding you. Just relax. Let it pass.
Damn and blast! I should have known. If something seems too good to be true, then that's how it is. I shouldn't have pushed her to exert herself. I should have known these last few days have been difficult.
It's all right, Doctor. Calm down. I entertained the same hopes. She seemed to have improved so much this week.
Oh, that's just great. Capital. There's another thing I thought had improved. The weather.
Never mind. We'd better get under cover before the clouds roll on this way. I'll carry Fosca.
You sure about that?
You know she's all skin and bone.
Very well, then.
We retreated to what portion of the castle was still standing. Though we remained dry, the wind was blowing at gale force, and in my haste to reach shelter, I'd left my jacket behind. Upon my return to the barracks, I began to experience that feeling of lightheadedness that precedes a fever. I was not long in dozing off, but I did not rest easy. My mind was haunted by dreams of death. I was back on the front, running blind toward enemy lines. As the smoke of battle cleared, the ground beneath my feet changed. No longer was I standing on solid ground. I was wading through a lake. As my vision cleared, I beheld the body of Clara, my Clara, lying dead in the water, just like the Clara that Fosca had loved as a girl. I embraced her corpse and let myself fall, steeling myself to drown alongside her. When I heard Fosca's voice calling my name from above, and an arm reached out from behind me, pulling me up to the surface. I awoke in a cold sweat, feeling utterly stupefied, breathless, thirsty. By the time the sun rose, I could not get out of bed. When I did not report for duty as scheduled, one of the others found me and sent for the doctor. Over the next week, my dreams were haunted with visions of the grave, and my waking hours were filled with shivering, sweating, and nursing headaches. Fosca visited me every day, provided me with a fresh basin of water and a stack of small towels to place on my forehead. Though I was not so weak as to be incapable of feeding myself, sometimes she would spoon soup or porridge into my mouth as if I were a baby, and I let her, grateful that I did not have to make the effort. She also smuggled in a flask of brandy, which I put under my pillow. Whenever the nightmares got too much for me, I would take it out and attempt to drink myself into unconsciousness. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. Fosca.
There. It's all right. Just another bad dream. That's all. You're safe now.
Sal.
Your friend, the one who had his leg shot off, the one that you saved?
I didn't save him this time. I ran away, my God.
Don't pay it any more mind, my dear. Just sit back, dry your eyes, relax. That's better now. I brought you some tea. There you are.
Thank you. Oh, that's lovely.
I also brought some good news for you.
Good news?
Yes, I've been talking to Dr. Antonelli and my cousin. The doctor says that in a few days, the sweats and the shakes are likely to subside. You'll be up to walking around again, though the headaches will persist for a while. I've convinced my cousin to give you 2 weeks' leave.
2 weeks?
Yes, 2 weeks, so you can recuperate in more comfortable surrounds than this.
Oh, that's very generous. Thank you so much.
Please, there's no need. It's the least I could do, really. If it wasn't for me, you wouldn't be in this mess. I brought you a pen and paper. When you're feeling up to it, you can write a letter to Clara. Let her know that you're coming to see her. That is what you're going to do, isn't it?
Yes. I will go to Milan. I'll see her.
Well, with that in mind, Giorgio, I have to ask... No, I can't.
What is it?
No, you've been so good to me, so understanding, so tender, so forgiving. I don't want to push you away. No, not now.
Oh, for God's sake, Fosca, just tell me. I promise I won't get upset.
Well,
What? Spit it out, woman. No, don't bother. I think I can guess what you're going to say. You want to come to Milan with me, don't you?
If I'd asked you that, what would your response have been?
I would say no, of course. Oh, please. What else would you expect? Don't be a bloody idiot. You're smarter than this. You know how the world works.
I could have stayed in a separate hotel. I wouldn't have stopped you from seeing Clara. I can't stand the thought of being apart from you that long. And I don't know how much time I have left. I don't want to spend my last days in this town. And I'm told Milan is so beautiful at this time of year.
Have you mentioned this to your cousin?
No.
Good. I doubt even someone as lax about protocol as he is would approve of me as your chaperone. Indeed, I'm amazed he has had such faith in my good intentions thus far. But this would be really pushing it. I'm afraid if you ask him for this, he would get suspicious. He might even stop you from ever seeing me again. If you want to see Milan, you should ask him if he'd let the doctor take you on a day trip. You could send a telegram ahead to my hotel and let me know when you're arriving. Then I could meet up with both of you together.
That's all very reasonable, but it's not what I want, Giorgio. I don't want a nice, sensible day trip. I want a real holiday with you.
For God's sake, keep your voice down. Stop acting like a spoiled child. It's the best that I can offer you. Take it or leave it. For the next few days after that, the doctor brought in my meals. I had to feed myself, and I exhausted my secret stash of liquor. Nevertheless, I recovered my strength, if not my peace of mind. After I packed my bags for the trip to Milan, I stopped by Fosca's quarters to say goodbye. But there was no answer. I waited 20 minutes and tried again. Still no response. With a heavy heart, I made my way to the station. I was about to board the train when I heard the sound of running footsteps behind me, and a familiar voice breathlessly calling my name.
Giorgio! Giorgio, wait! Please!
Fosca?
I'm sorry I was so mean to you. I was horrible, beastly. Please, before you leave, say that you'll forgive me. Please, please, Giorgio.
Shh, it's all right. Of course I forgive you. Really, I should be the one asking for your forgiveness. I spoke too bluntly with you before. I was condescending. After you'd gone to so much trouble caring for me.
Oh, my dear friend. Dear friend. You're so wonderful putting up with my nonsense. How can you stand it?
Well, when I'm with you, it's never dull.
Oh no. You'd better be going.
I suppose I must. No, wait a minute. This ticket is good for another 8 hours at least. I can catch the next one.
But that won't be till 11 o'clock.
I don't mind. No one is waiting to meet me at the station in Milan. Come and have a coffee with me at the inn. You can keep me entertained for a while. Then I'll arrange for a coach to take you back to the barracks. Perhaps you think that I forgave her too easily. You would need to have seen her to understand. She looked even more gaunt and wasted away than usual. Her posture was unsteady, her stride was faltering, and she looked as if the journey to the station had exhausted her. Had her health deteriorated so much in the last couple of days? Or were my thoughts so wrapped up in my own illness that I had failed to notice she had fallen into a decline right along with me? The thought that Fosca had tenderly nursed me through a comparatively trivial ailment, even as she herself was dying, once again made me ashamed of the harshness with which I had spoken to her earlier.
Pot of coffee, black?
Yes, thank you.
Will that be all, sir?
For the moment, yes.
Very good, sir.
Did you see the way that woman looked at us?
Yes, I saw that look, and I wanted to smash her teeth in. That's why you can't take me to Milan, isn't it?
Yes, that's right. If it makes you feel any better, I don't think it's fair. I don't like it any more than you do. You know, some of the most intelligent people I've ever met, the most stimulating conversationalists, have been women. It frustrates me that biology has to complicate things, but ignoring the problem won't make it go away.
I understand.
Also, I have other reasons for wanting to go on my own. I really should have told you before.
Oh?
Mostly to do with Clara. I plan to follow your sage advice.
My advice?
Yes, I'm going to take a chance. Tell her that it's all or nothing from now on.
Is that really what you want?
Life is too short, and as you've pointed out to me, against all odds, I've been granted more time than many other far worthier men and women. So much more time. And if I don't seize the moment, take this chance, then I'm guaranteed to fail, aren't I? I've got to do this.
Why the sudden change of heart?
I didn't tell you this before, because I didn't want to risk upsetting you, didn't want to risk provoking a seizure. I won't go into too much detail, but when I was ill, I had a dream. I saw my Clara, and she had drowned, like your Clara. I threw myself into the water after her, but you were there in the dream also. You saved me. As the fever took hold, I kept returning to that scene again and again. Made me think. I've got to take my chances before it's too late.
I can see why you didn't tell me about that. But you should have. I would have understood then. I am glad that you have reached this decision.
Truly?
Yes. I want more than anything else for my friend to be happy. And if I've played even a small part in bringing this happiness into your life, then that comforts me. To know that my voice can be a force for good in the lives of others gives a sense of purpose, a validation to what's left of my life.
I'm sorry that I couldn't give you more.
You did more than most people would. I'll always be grateful to you for that.
Listen, Fosca, I don't need 2 weeks to get over this. I'll write to you when I get to Milan, and if things don't work out with Clara, well then I'll come back early, alright?
Are you quite sure about that? You're not likely to get any more leave this year.
I don't think I've ever been more sure of anything in my life. If she rejects me, then there's no point staying in that city. I'd rather spend what's left of this year in the company of a true friend. The truest of them all.
Oh, Giorgio!
Have I upset you?
No, silly! You've made me very happy.
There was something terribly sad about how easy it was to make Fosca happy. How impressed she was by the slightest gesture of affection. Life had dealt her so many blows, she'd grown accustomed to being beaten down. But I was not merely pandering to her out of pity when I said that she was the truest of friends. In all my life, nobody, man or woman, had ever treated me with as much honesty. Though her words sometimes hurt, there was something about her steadfast devotion to the truth, above all things, even above what society considers basic human decency, that commanded my respect. And there was nobody whose loyalty and devotion I could be more certain of than she. We moved on from discussion of Clara to happier topics. The change of seasons, the land between here and Milan, places we had travelled. I wish I had time to relate those happy conversations. Before I arranged for a coach to take her back, I produced a pack of cards, and we played for peanuts. Literally, the contents of a bowl of peanuts we used as chips. Fosca won, naturally, cleared me out completely. As I boarded the 11 o'clock train, I realised that I would miss her company, hysterical tantrums and all. Every time we'd exchanged words, she had challenged me in some way, pushed me toward a new, richer understanding of life. The first snows of December had started falling when I arrived in Milan. I put off my reunion with Clara for 3 days, having explained to her in my last letter that I wanted to be sure that the worst of my illness was past before seeing her. I had just got my strength back when I received a telegram at my hotel, instructing me to meet her at the park in Porta Magenta. Though a slight fog had settled in, the sun was shining brightly. The snow seemed to form so many silver particles it was dazzling. The stream was frozen solid, and neither an insect nor a blade of grass was visible. Clara had me pose on the bridge, as before, and she drew me holding a withered, dead rose in my hand. Next, we found a hedge and picked some of those vermilion berries that grow with wild roses and taste sour, although nearly sweet. Clara nattered on about making jam with what I could tell was a kind of forced cheerfulness. There was a sadness in her eyes, a distracted lilt to her voice. I sensed that something else was on her mind, that she was preparing herself to say something awful. But I said nothing of my suspicions. We crossed the bridge and walked to the gardener's shed. We found it locked. As Clara beat upon the door in frustration, tears welled in her eyes, and I took her in a warm embrace. Clara, it's all right. You know, it probably would have been very uncomfortable in there anyway. And it's so cold.
I know, Giorgio. I just wanted to see it again. See it once before.
I understand.
I'm sorry. So sorry, Giorgio.
It's fine. Let it all out. Why don't you say what you've been thinking? Go on. Hold nothing back.
I must leave you. These next 2 days, They're the last days, Giorgio.
They don't have to be.
Yes, they absolutely must be!
But why? Why must you leave?
Please don't make this more difficult than it already is. I have never lied to my son until I met you. But to be with you, I've lied to him, to my husband, friends, family, the household, everyone I know. It's so easy, it frightens me. I do not like the person I've become. And I do not like the way that they still worship the ground I walk upon, even now that I've made myself unworthy. The constant deceit when I'm with you, the grief and guilt when we're apart, I can bear it no longer.
If you've grown weary of deceit, then you don't have to love me in secret. Leave your husband. We can run away together, build a life for ourselves, have and hold each other always, not just for a few stolen moments in a year, but from now till the end of our days.
I can't believe I'm hearing this. Where would we run to, may I ask? How would we support ourselves? Have you bothered to think that far ahead?
I don't know, but I'd find a job somehow. We'd manage. Worst case scenario, we'd go back to my native village. I could work with my parents on the farm. The prodigal son returns. You're smart, industrious. You'd adapt to country life soon enough.
And your good Catholic father, he would have no problem accepting a fallen woman into the fold?
My sister committed a few indiscretions in her youth. Yet my father forgave her quite readily. It is what our Lord and Saviour would do, he said. My family would understand, I'm sure.
Well, that's all very well, but what about my family?
If they really love you, then surely they will forgive you in time. Even if they cut you off financially, they won't cut you out of their hearts completely.
You do not know my family.
Well, if they think so little of your happiness, perhaps you're really better off without them anyway.
How dare you? And what about my son? His most difficult years are still ahead of him. If I leave now, then I will not be able to offer my guidance and support to him when he most needs it.
Your husband can guide and support him. As a man, he is better able to understand what it is that a growing boy needs. My mother was usually too drunk to pay me much attention, and I turned out all right.
And you never wanted your mother to pay you more attention, to comfort you when your heart was in turmoil?
No, I just accepted the way things were as the natural order of life.
Well, Etienne won't. I've loved him too much already, and the poor lamb idolizes me just like every other man in my life. It would completely crush him. I won't abandon him.
So you'd condemn yourself to a loveless marriage for the sake of your son?
It's not loveless! Not on his side or mine. That's the worst part of it. It would not feel like such a terrible betrayal then, if he had stopped loving me, if I had stopped loving him. But he is still kind and tender towards me. I still take pleasure in his company and in his touch.
Have you no love for me, then? Have you no compunction about breaking my heart?
You bastard! I have betrayed the trust of everyone I hold dear, forsaken what virtue I possessed, all for the love of you. That isn't enough, Giorgio. You want more?
Yes! I want everything. I know that it's wrong, but still, I want it all.
Well, I can't. I won't let you have it all. I decide how much love I am willing to give. I left you under no illusions about that when we started this affair.
Yes, it was all very sensible, very reasonable, very polite. This nice, neat, well-ordered, conditional love of yours.
Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Why are you being so cruel to me? Do you want me to walk away hating you? Is that it? Or do you want to make me into the villain now so you can feel better about yourself? You must realise that whatever I choose to do, I will hurt somebody. This is the least hurtful course of action open to me. This way only you and I are hurt, and we're the only ones who deserve to be.
We could simply go on as we have been. No one has to know, no one has to get hurt.
And we would never get caught? Not ever? I'm afraid I don't share your confidence.
So then, this is goodbye?
Not necessarily. I'd hope we could salvage a friendship from all this.
Oh, so I could come over for Sunday lunch, sip tea with you and your husband, chat about the state of the world at large, all the while pretending that nothing ever happened between us. Why, perhaps in time, young Etienne will take to calling me Uncle Giorgio.
Would that really be so terrible?
every moment in your presence would just be a sad reminder of all that is denied to me. It's the worst kind of insult. What comfort can I take in mere polite conversation?
I thought that you held me in esteem not just for my body but for my mind also. If you are unable to engage with one, you would cease to have any interest in the other? Is that what you are trying to say? I thought you were a better man than that, Giorgio.
I'm sorry, Clara. I don't know what's come over me. Please forgive me. I don't mean to be so angry. I don't blame you for feeling this way. Really, I don't. It's just... I had to take the chance. I knew that if I didn't at least put the question to you, then I'd regret it for the rest of my life. When I was sick, when the fever came upon me, I saw you in my dreams and you were dying, and I knew that my life was nothing without you. Night after night, I died in your arms. Clara, I don't want to lose you. Please, I take back what I said before. Let me be your friend. If that is the only way that we can love each other, then I will love you as a friend, the best of friends. But I need to have you in my life somehow. Don't shut me out.
Shh, it's all right. I forgive you, Giorgio. Get up off your knees, please. People will stare. It will be a struggle for me too, putting all of this behind me, learning to love you in a different way, a better way. But I know you have endured more perilous hardships than this, and emerged a stronger man. Together we have the strength to do this, I am sure. But first, I must fulfill my promise to you.
Promise?
Yes. Weren't you listening just then, when I promised to be yours for the next 2 days? Everyone believes I'm in the country visiting a sick uncle this weekend, but I shall be with you the whole time.
What? You mean...
Yes! For the rest of today, and tomorrow and the day after, I'm yours to do with as you wish, my love.
You don't think it's too risky? What if your uncle is asked about this visit?
I've confided my infidelity to him, and him alone.
Is that wise?
We have a special understanding. You see, when I was a child, shortly after my aunt died, as I was helping my mother clean his house, I discovered some love letters he had received from another woman. I confronted him about it later, but ultimately I decided to keep the details of his affair a secret. I didn't see the point in upsetting the rest of my family, and we had always been close. In an odd way, this made us closer.
Because he was indebted to you for your discretion?
Yes, but it was more than that. He was the first grown-up I knew who wasn't perfectly good. I found myself confessing to him all of the doubts I had about what I was taught to believe in as good. Things I could never say to my parents, and I knew he would listen without judging me. He will keep our secret and vouch for my honour if the need arises. Have no fear. Oh, it is getting frightfully cold out, Giorgio. Take me back to your room. We shall light the fire.
As we strolled away from the park, Clara plucked one of those everlasting flowers, the kind that are woven into mortuary garlands, from a garden hedge, and she gave it to me so I could add it to my collection as a remembrance of this day. She smiled so sweetly as she did this, I decided not to point out to her the unwittingly cruel irony inherent in her gesture. During the journey in the carriage, she began to tremble from the cold. She held tight to me and asked me to slip my hand into her muff. We travelled the long stretch of road without speaking. I simply gazed upon her as she snuggled up close to me, her eyes closed, a smile of dreamy contentment on her face as our hands entwined within the fur. In my room, we lit a blazing flame in the hearth. Clara's stylish ladies' shoes weren't fashioned for winter weather. They were soaked from trudging in the snow. So were her beautiful stockings. As she sat in the chair by the fireside, I delicately slid them down, gently caressing her thighs as I did so. Then I warmed her small, dainty feet with my hands, before removing her other garments and carrying her to the bed. And oh, what delights ensued. Knowing that this chapter of our lives would soon come to an end seemed to lend a heightened awareness to our senses. Every tender kiss, every warm embrace, every soft caress, every thrust and sigh and moan were infused with an increased urgency and focus as we both realized that each moment was a precious gift to be treasured. I will never forget the look upon Clara's face just before she fell asleep in my arms, her countenance the very picture of languid serenity, a slight, barely perceptible, close-lipped smile on her face as a solitary tear of joy trickled down her cheek. If I had been a painter, I would have attempted to capture that moment on canvas for all time. I wish I had time to recount in detail all the pleasures of that weekend, for I have never known sweeter satisfaction with a woman than during this Clara's long goodbye to me. Suffice it to say that we dined out at the most expensive restaurants in the neighbourhood for every meal, consuming gluttonous portions each time. We took in 2 operas and an exhibition. We made love as if our very lives depended upon it. When it was all over, I felt no rancour, no bitterness, not even a pang of sorrow that I would never again hold her in a lover's embrace. I felt calm, at peace, in a way that I would never have imagined possible. As we rode to the station, I thought of Fosca, how she had successfully put her romantic yearning behind her and had become an amiable companion to me, a solid confidant whose loyalty and understanding I could always depend upon. I actually found myself looking forward to the prospect of such a relationship with Clara in the years to come.
Well, I suppose this really is goodbye now.
Think of it more as a fare thee well or see you later.
How do friends do such things, Giorgio?
We could shake on it.
No. Shaking hands seems too formal. Can we hug? Friends are permitted to hug each other, are they not?
Why, of course.
Fare thee well, Captain Farina, until we meet again.
Till then, farewell, Madame Dupont.